Welcome to Rise and Shine, an intimate conversation behind the scenes with some of my favorite people on the planet. My name is Alissa. I am the consultress, and I bring to you uncommon conversations in the world that is ever evolving, and it's never going to be a new normal. It's going to be new extraordinary. So as we evolve and approach these evolutionary times with thought and heart and soul, I just wanted to give the world a little bit of a peek into some of the amazing people that I have curated, some of the brightest stars in my sky. And I'm blessed here today to have a conversation with you, Miss Nancy Kobel. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me for this wonderful conversation. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, hell yeah.
Mhm.
Now, I know you to be a dare to lead facilitator and a brilliant coach and mentor to many. And
Mhm.
we happen to have about a year under our belts of masterminding together, maybe even more than that.
Mhm.
You've seen me through transition. You have seen me through ups and downs, highs and lows. And to me, you always bring that sense of compassion, peace, and that like steadying presence. So where did that come from?
Ah, that is something I've owned, and I call it my quiet power. And it took me a long time to own it, especially being young, introvert, not knowing that that was powerful. Uh, and I remember when I was working internal in an organization, first time one of the managers came into my office, and I was in leadership and organizational development. I was an internal coach. And he's like, I don't know what it is. I come into your office all like this, and then I walk out calm. He's like, I could just hang out in your office and it'll shift my energy to calm. And that was the first time. It was like, huh. And then when I was going through my coach training, I remember and I always had that internal judge. You're not opening your mouth. You're not asking any questions. You're not, well, whatever, those judgments go on. And I remember the trainer, she's just like, gosh, I could just stand next to you all day and not say anything. And so yeah, right. So you're just like, huh. So my brain started going. It's like, oh, so maybe part of my power is being able to hold space. It's not necessarily doing or talking. I mean, I still talk, but
Clearly.
yes, clearly I talk, but being able to actually hold the container, hold the space for transformation, whether it's one-on-one or a group, or whatever it is, that I can actually come with a grounded presence and know that's part of, not all of what I bring, but part of what I bring is this calming presence. Part of my energy, I guess, right?
Yeah, that and so I hear the calming presence, but in order to be the calming presence, I think
Mhm.
it was beautiful. You put it so well. You have to be calm, and
Mhm.
especially in a world that's like trigger happy.
Yes.
We're all friggin' triggered by so many things. That person doesn't like my shoes. I'm triggered, right? From that
Uh-huh.
ridiculousness to I don't know why I feel like I never fit in. Every time I do something successful, I always bounce out and sabotage myself. That's
Mhm.
triggering too. In our
Yeah.
so in that context, we live in a trigger happy culture right now where we're constantly pushed out of our bodies and it's a fear response. It's almost like I'm vulnerable and I'm uncomfortable and I don't know where safety's at. It
Yeah.
sounds like to me your powerful presence in being calm it's like a beacon in the night. It's, if you don't know where to find that, it's like, but I'm gravitating to you. Yeah, you get that. I heard you say that.
Yeah.
People are just like, I just want to be like in your energy. I had somebody say that to me once, and I was like, you want my energy? Like different time. But I think that it's very important to know where your personal peaceful power exists. Can you tell me a little bit more about how you developed into like the confidence around that?
So when I was going through coach training and this was starting to bubble up, I actually wrote a story for a nonprofit for a nonprofit called Heal My Voice. And this was probably in 2016. This was the second story. The second story was My Quiet Power. And so I dived deep. And so it was like a 9-month period of where I actually wrote this story, where I actually owned this part of me. So there was this evolution, and there was a lot going on, like 2016. What was going on? I think it was peeling back and realizing that that feminine energy of calm and quiet and being able to hold space was just as powerful as the productive, the doing. And it's the power is in the balance of it. So I think it was actually in that period of writing this story, I actually started owning it. One, I had to figure out what it was. And two was owning the quiet power, but owning all of it. And you mentioned the trigger happy, but owning our emotions, owning and getting curious about those triggers and recognizing those are ours to peel back and to not judge our emotions, but to recognize that our emotions are powerful. They're sending us powerful messages. And if we have the ability, and we're human, so we don't always have this ability, and we do react and we do get triggered, which is fine, but it's owning it. And it's how are we offloading those emotions? And I think what's powerful too, and I think that's why I was drawn to the work of Brene Brown with Dare to Lead, because she gets into vulnerability and courage. And part of that is owning our emotions, owning that this is my stuff. and some of it's like boundaries. Like I never had boundaries. And some of it's, okay, this is okay and this is not okay, and why? And sometimes when we get triggered, it's because somebody has crossed a boundary that we didn't necessarily define, or we didn't communicate, or we did communicate and they still crossed it. Or we started setting boundaries with people that weren't used to us having boundaries. And so it gets uncomfortable in a lot of ways. So I'm trying to think, I think it was an evolution between coaching and always being in a mastermind or getting coached, like since becoming a coach in this whole journey of the past 10 years. I've been a professional coach for 10 years. So, and in that I've been in one-on-one coaching, I've been in masterminds and learning mode and becoming, this whole where I am.
And it's all of me, right? Yes.
Yeah, all
I
of me.
mean, like owning that and knowing that I want to just highlight the journey had a lot to do with, instead of judging, popping into curiosity. And I know that, if you've been on this journey with me in Rise and Shine, had another conversation about the intuition around the more questions there are, the better it is and the better it can become. So
Right.
getting curious, like the answers aren't what we're really all after. It's about asking the questions and being curious and wondering. Charlton Locke was somebody who I met who had something to say about living in childlike wonder. And if we can just release that sense of like have to and someone called it curiosity, and I thought that was hilarious. But if we can just play with the stuff rather so than always be fearful of it or have it mean something, like we don't live in this cemented world mentally and emotionally. It's very fluid. And I love what you said about the clarity came for you when you were writing it down. And one of the tools that I've used in the last 30 years is journaling. And I didn't call it journaling back then. I really had this like thing when I was a teenager about like diaries. Oh my God. Right. But me, looking back as a 40-something now, that was the best gift I gave to myself in my very first journal, was metabolizing my anger. and having a place and a space, just write it as furiously and as neatly as it came out. And just having the space for me to be messy and to like tackle this anger and you know, because I was a good girl, I didn't have anger. So the only outlet that I did have for anger at the time, or at least that I gave myself permission to have, was to be able to write it down. And that blossomed throughout my life. And the number one tool that I keep coming back to that helps me to stay the most confident and to stay the most vulnerable and secure, rather so than vulnerable and, you know, out of my body waiting for someone else to judge me or push me out and make me question my own worth, is writing. You know, the artist's way, morning pages open that up for me, where I just sit down and write for me. I found myself in my entrepreneurial journey wanting to write copy, and I couldn't do it because now I know I had to have the divine practice first, the writing just for me, because that's what was truly priority to need to come out. Now I can write emails and letters all day long because I have the confidence that I've set the time and set the space now damn near daily to spend time with myself and hear what I'm actually thinking. Because when you write things down, you slow it down enough for you to find the right word. And that like sequence actually helps us to divine our own clarity from all the perhaps triggery stuff or the emotional chaos that comes along with thinking thoughts about things that we don't know yet, or stuff that we aren't real solid about. So, you know, I want to highlight that that being that you have comes from getting clarity, and one of the tools to do so is writing. And I also want to know, how'd you get so good looking? You know, how'd you get so good looking, right? Because I know when we go out to the world with a smile, that's our prettiest self. Not pretty like, you know, or sexy and sultry, but like, I swear, Nancy, when I see you come on camera and you're just being yourself, like, you're gorgeous and you radiate. So like, what is it that helps you to be in that place where you can show up and smile and be just who you are? Because I think that comes out in your trainings. That's what people pay you, you know, the big bucks to do. So we kind of want in on the secret.
Secret of, well, one is like the journaling helped, right? But I also have like just practices that I incorporate into my days. And also I have found it's, you know, one of the beliefs I have, especially, you know, if you're an entrepreneur or if you're, you know, whatever that role is, people aren't necessarily buying what you're selling. They're buying you and what you're bringing. And so, you know, as a kid, I think I didn't necessarily feel like I fit in. I was quiet, introverted. So I was trying to figure out who I was supposed to be. And it wasn't me. It was like, ooh, they're doing something that people like. Let me try that, right? So I was kind of doing this false stuff that was not authentic. But where I always felt the most at home, you know, with friends, was when I could be me. You know, it's like, oh, those are my people, because I can just show up and be myself, and that's it. And I feel home here, right? I don't feel anything. And I always sought that out, even as a kid, like in high school. It's like, okay, where are my friends that I can just be me? And where's the university that I go to where I can be myself and not feel like I'm being judged because for whatever reason, right? So I think I always sought those places out. My first job out of college, I was like, ooh, I want to work here because I can just show up as me. And I don't have to put on some false facade to fit in and be accepted. So I think I always sought that out. And so I've just realized and owned it. It's like, gosh, I really just want to be myself. And that's what I'm going to bring. Because that's, I mean, we all have we're all unique little snowflakes. That's just in my head from the work I was doing this week. So,
Yeah.
Right. So that just popped in, right? So, well, I think we just all bring something unique to the world. And what is that? and that's ourselves. And the more that people are able to do that, I think the world will be a better place. I mean, that's all. I mean, we're hardwired for connection. That's the number one human need, is human connection. And it's the number one thing that leads to happiness, is that human connection. So we have to connect to ourselves, but that's also connecting to others. And I think so this is just coming out of my mouth, but I think that connection to self is so important, because when we're looking external for validation, for approval, we're missing something really important. So first, it's got to start here, that self-love and self-kindness and self-compassion, and recognizing we're human and we're going to screw up and we're going to be triggered, but having some self-empathy towards ourselves and recognizing that we're not perfect. And yeah, we're going to say yes when we want to say no. We're going to say no when we want to say yes, because we're scared or whatever that is, right? So part of me, I just lean in, and sometimes I say yes to things and then I figure it out. So it's like, oh, that sounds fun.
Yeah, and that's it. Follow the fun. Like, where you feel most excited is probably the thing that's going to bring other people around you that are seeking whatever value you're bringing to gravitate to you. I'm reading a book right now that says enthusiasm trumps damn near everything. And I believe it, because this is how I live. Like, you see me here on these calls. And I'm just like, I'm me. And that energy, people just, they'll gravitate to you when you're enjoying where you are. And so something I wanted to just pinpoint about that externalizing our values, the structure of our school systems, the legacy school systems here, because we had gone from like an apprenticeship where you followed your passion and you found someone who did that and you learned from someone who was living it, to, you know, fast forward here to what we've all experienced in this, who are on this planet right now, is what would be tagged the industrialized school system.
Yes.
In the industrialized school system, we are taught from before we are fully formed humans, right? That first 7 years of life, we are taught that we get praise and we get attention through producing the right behavior, producing the right answer. And again, this goes back to, you know, us always wanting to find that answer. It's been programmed for so long that we're not the judge of what's proper, that it has to be outsourced and validated somewhere else, whether that be grades or joining organizations or whatever. I mean, it lasts well into adulthood if you don't reverse engineer it. And it was one of the things that I recognized as a human potential trainer, certified human potential trainer, when my kids went to school. They would come home with the seedlings that I was helping, you know, 40, 50, and 60-year-olds weed out of their garden. And I was like, holy cow, they're learning to outsource their own validation. And I couldn't unsee that, because I had trained eyes to see it. And so that was one of the main jump off points for me to homeschool my kids, to give them a sense of personal self-reflective validation. It's affirmation. It's not validation. So if we can use those words, and that, again, words matter. I'm a stickler for semantics. If we can use affirmation, yes, that's right, not validation. Oh yeah, you're right. It'll change the game, and it'll bring your power back into yourself, because we don't know. We're very unconscious in that mechanism that we've trained in for so long. It's already unconscious, that we're externalizing much more than actually is healthy for us as sovereign and sentient beings.
And something else popped into my head as you were talking, because I think part of it too is people internalize a lot, and they think they're the only one that's going through this or experiencing this. And then it gets very lonely. And there are a lot of people that are feeling very lonely right now. But this gets into vulnerability and sharing our stories and sharing our experiences. And sharing our stories helps others connect with us in a way that they know, oh, I'm not the only one. Oh, I'm not the only one that's experienced this or feels like this, or I'm not crazy, or I'm not whatever that internal dialogue is going on that actually causes separation.
Mm.
I don't know. That was just popping into my head as you were
Yeah,
talking. So
and for a great reason. I'm listening to you and I'm like, this is live learning here, folks. I internalized and it's interesting in the actual true sense of interest that some of the propensity that I have had through my life that I've kind of had to work around or learn that it was like not a healthy habit was to find out how I was wrong. Whenever there was a situation or a problem that arose, I immediately went into assuming, okay, so the worst case scenario is this is your fault. And if it's your fault, figure out how you made that happen. I have not until this very moment understood that that's what internalizing is. It's making yourself wrong or responsible for things that have nothing to do with you and may not have anything at all related to your thoughts, feelings, or actions in the least. So many of us have this left over from childhood. You know, mom and dad are fighting shit. How's it my fault? I know as a 4-year-old, I didn't say that, but work with me here. But internalizing how, like, and what we, right, as humans, what we look for, we find. This is like mind-blowing stuff. How do I pay you for this? I mean, I know people pay for this. So let's like,
oh yeah, I
we
get
have a
paid for
couple
that.
minutes left here, but like, this
Oh, we
is
do?
live
Oh.
transformation here, folks. Like, holy hell, this was worth the price of admission for me. I have to figure out what the price is now, because this is extraordinary transformation you've just provided in a 20-minute segment of time. And you do it gracefully without even thinking about it. It's just like, here's something that I think I should say right now, and trusting that it's freaking huge. So how do we pay you for this? Where do people find you? Because like, if you're a hidden gem, let's not hide you anymore.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, I do follow. I'm a very intuitive coach. So if something comes through, I'm like, there must be a reason I need to say this. So I'll usually ask permission within a coaching session if I can share something that's coming through. And it usually hits like what you just said. So I am an executive coach. I'm a leadership coach. You can find me. My website is leaderinspired.com. I'm also on LinkedIn. That's a great place to find me, to connect with me, message me, connect with me. And, I'm on the other channels, Instagram, Facebook, but probably professionally, those are probably the best places to find me. And my email. So.
And what is your email?
Nancy at leaderinspired with a D on the end.com.
Beautiful. And anybody who would like to reach out to this glorious woman, I've known her now for more than a year on a damn near weekly basis. And the transformation that happens being in and near and around this woman is just phenomenal. It makes the consultress ever better. So I am grateful for your companionship along this journey and your workshopping inside of our mastermind. And so, ladies and gentlemen, please do meet this wonderful woman. And if you want her back on Rise and Shine, give me all the high fives, thumbs up, subscribes, and shares that you can, because this is really valuable stuff and the world needs to hear it. Thank you so much. And for now, we will see you later, but catch us every Monday morning at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time or daylight time, depending on if those clocks will switch or won't switch in the future. 7:30 a.m. Eastern, whatever time. And we'll see you soon on the next Rise and Shine. Thanks a million, Miss Nancy, for being here. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Alissa, for having me. This has been fun.
Right on.